I see a cloud. We're going to push the start of the show back by 3 hours.
Okay.
Why? Why do they keep doing it? They keep winning, so I can't be mad about it, but why do they keep doing it? Oh, LSU baseball moves on to Omaha. I'm fired up about it, absolutely, but I'm also dragging because 8 o'clock start time for baseball and 6 a.m. start time for the morning show don't really go that well together. 6:04, rolling over to 6:05, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, off and running, such as it is. Brian here with you, so John LaBeouf producing. We got, we're stacked up today, y'all. I'm ready to rock and roll a little bit. And today, today we're in studio. Tomorrow and Wednesday, we're down in New Orleans, one of my favorite times of year, as the Teachers Leadership Summit is coming up. We'll tell you all about that as the show wears on. I'll tell you all about today's show as the show wears on. Right now, though, top stories and trending. Let's go.
Number 5.
Jacked up my stack of papers already. The St. George School District is one step closer to reality. Out of the Capitol, senators approved a bill allowing St. George to create its school district. That bill, penned by Senator Rick Edmonds, passed the Senate on Sunday night, 26-5. If the House of Representatives approves the bill today, it will go before voters in a statewide election in April of next year.
Number 4.
A Catholic priest with the Diocese of Baton Rouge unexpectedly passed away yesterday morning. The diocese confirmed that Father Gregory J. Daigle died Sunday morning, June 8th. St. John the Evangelist, Catholic Church said Father Greg was taken ill during the 9 a.m. Mass. He was rushed to a hospital where he died, 66 years old, serving as pastor of St. John the Evangelist in Plaquemine.
Number 3.
Sadie Roberts Joseph's children have been waiting and hoping since they learned of the arrest of the man police said killed their mother. The day they've been waiting for came Saturday, I believe. Ron Bell was convicted Saturday of second-degree murder in the 2019 killing of 75-year-old Roberts Joseph, who had been a civil rights activist in Baton Rouge and helped to found an African-American museum, was Bell's landlord, and he was behind on his rent. She was found dead in the trunk of her car, which was parked near a vacant house on North 20th Street.
Number 2.
Baton Rouge Metro Council could approve an agreement in the coming weeks that would allow the Baton Rouge Police Department to be featured on a live reality television show called On Patrol Live. The show features live broadcasts of ride-alongs with police officers.
Number 1.
Today should be the day we see a vote on the full state budget out at the state capitol. They were in session yesterday. A lot of talks were going on yesterday. A vote is expected today. From there, concurrence would have to happen before the budget is sent to the governor's desk for signature. What's trending, John?
Well, President Donald Trump is deploying National Guard troops to Los Angeles as violent protests continue.
And the governor's saying no.
Yeah.
Governor Newsom saying we don't want the National Guard troops here. The protests are lighting cars on fire. They're assaulting police officers. They're violent protests. I don't know why the governor, we can all make our political assumptions as to why the governor wouldn't want them. But on a logical scale, I don't know why the governor wouldn't want them.
Doesn't make sense, right?
Yep.
Not at all. In other news, a private lunar lander from Japan crashed while attempting a touchdown Friday, the latest casualty in the commercial rush to the moon.
I didn't even know Japan was going to the moon.
They're trying, man, I guess.
I didn't even know.
Maybe under
That's
the
awesome.
radar. Yeah.
Go for it, Japan.
Heck yeah.
Make the moon weird. You ever notice all the weird things in the world? And this is not a knock against Japan, because but there's a lot of weird stuff. When you see the weirder cartoons,
right?
When you see people who wear fish in their hair, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's
weird times, Brian.
I know.
They're odd times.
And now let's make the moon weird.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of weird, attorneys for Sean Diddy Combs are once again asking a judge to declare a mistrial in a sex trafficking and racketeering case.
My case is getting weirder by the day. It's getting unbelievably strange.
Yeah. The further the deeper they dig, man, the weirder it gets.
And I don't check in every day, so I shouldn't say by the day, but every time catch a headline or two, or like somebody's doing a TikTok breaking down that day in the trial. I just, yeah, let me just revise my earlier statement. Japan and Diddy are all just, that's where all the weird comes from.
Getting weird. For sure.
We're at 610 at Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. We got sports coming up in just a little bit. Yes, LSU does advance to Omaha, headed back to the College World Series. They are the second to last team to make it up there. We'll have the breakdown on who else is going in just a little bit. Before we take our first break, though, I want to remind you about the folks over at Vex. Nope. Sorry, that's later. P.F. Chang's is right now. Okay. It's early. I'm a mess. My apologies. You know what I need? I need me some P.F. Chang's. Probably back on a sesame beef kick again. Got some last week. Reset.
Okay.
I was doing the black pepper chicken, which is awesome. I was like, I want the texture. The texture and the flavor with the crispy beef. It's so good. You can't go wrong whenever you're getting over at P.F. Chang's. If you have not made your lunch plans yet, and it is 6:11 in the morning, so really who has? P.F. Chang's is going to have you covered. Lunch special starting at $13.99. Dinner special starting at $16.99. Don't forget about they got happy hour specials every single day of the week. I really don't tell you about the bar as often as I should, but that's because the food's so good. You're getting, it's Asian flair or Asian fare, I should say. Okay, that's awesome. What's even better is they're using better ingredients. It's made lighter. It's made to be lighter and fresher, and in turn a little bit healthier as well. Not going to weigh you down. Not going to knock you out for the second half of your day. You know where to find them. They're in Town Center, off Corporate Boulevard. It's P.F. Chang's. Look for the giant golden horse.
Studio.
Oh.
Let me know everything in the black pepper chicken.
Oh.
Cholesterol, all the this, all the ingredients, whatever. So much for being healthy. It's like, dude, it's a lot of research to do in the morning on black pepper chicken.
6:15, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. All right, LSU is moving on to the College World Series, heading up to Omaha. Wonder how many Jello shots have already been sold. They will be up on the board for that for sure. I think the goal this year is 100,000, which would be just ridiculous. So LSU baseball tops West Virginia 12-5 last night. That makes it a sweep in the Super Regionals over the Mountaineers. That gives LSU their 40th win of the season. Head coach Jay Johnson says the players put in the work to punch their ticket to Omaha.
I really wanted these guys to go because they'd earned it. And whether we won 2 games this weekend or not, they earned a trip to the College World Series. And I can't wait to go chase a national championship with them.
Johnson says his team was built around 12 returning players from last year's team, plus an outstanding freshman class, a few key pickups in the transfer portal as well. It's taken some time to get the team where he wants them, but it's all come together for a championship-worthy team.
Very tough, very together, very team over me. That was kind of our motto for the year. And I told them after the game, I'm super proud of them because the rewards of tough and together were out there on that field tonight.
Shortstop Stephen Milam was the offensive star of the Super Regional Series. He was great both nights. Hitting a grand slam in Game 1, driving in 4 more runs last night. Milam, he has struggles with the bat in SEC play, but since turning over from season to postseason, he's back to his namesake of Monster Milam at the plate.
You know, our whole team's running great at bats 1 through 9. I mean, you can punch in 15 different guys and we're going to beat you. But I just love the big moments, what I came here for, and, you know, this is why you come to LSU.
First baseman Jared Jones, one of 2 players who was on the 2023 National Championship team. Jones understands what it'll take to bring home an 8th national championship for the program.
The job's not finished. We got a lot more work ahead of us. You know, we're going to have practice on Tuesday, get on a plane on Wednesday, and fly out there and get right back to work and get, you know, recovered and rested and get ready for Game 1.
Which Game 1, by the way, will be Saturday, taking on Arkansas. Arkansas swept through Tennessee in their Super Regional, just back-to-back wins over the pinnacle of college baseball. A couple of notes from last night. Not the best night for Anthony Ianson, for sure. Ianson went 5 innings. He got out there on the 6th, but wasn't able to punch anybody out. 5 innings for Ianson. Gave up 5 hits, gave up 4 runs. All 4 of them were earned. He did walk 3, struck out 7. If you look at it, just plain look at the box score, it's like, well, 5 innings and 7 strikeouts, that's not bad. No, the strikeout ratio wasn't what the problem was. It wasn't the level that he's been at this for the back half of the conference schedule and, you know, in the regular regionals as well. So, hey, if you're going to have an off night from Anthony Ianson, good to get it out of the way when you're putting up 12 runs, right? Same thing with Cade Anderson from the day before. Anderson gave up a whole slew of runs. Now, to be fair, Anderson gave up all of his runs on Saturday, not all of them, all but one, when the team was already up 10-1. LSU's up 10-1, and, you know, okay, pitcher loses his concentration there, and probably goes a little bit longer than he should have. And I'm willing to wager that he was left out there a little bit longer than he would have been if things were tighter, where if you're Jay Johnson, you want to save your bullpen. So, not the best of nights by either of the 2 starters, but when you can have an off night that nets you what you got from both of those guys, I'll take that all day long. I will package that up and take it to Omaha all day long. So LSU will play Arkansas. That was one of the ones that was decided yesterday, or 2 of the games, I guess, that were decided yesterday, leading to one matchup up in Omaha. And you know what? I'm going to have to wait until after the Fox Business Report to tell you the rest, because I've got a spinning wheel over here and no internet. So I know we're ramping up towards 6:20. Rather than try and fight my way through it, what I'm going to go ahead and do is stay on time. We'll hit the Fox Business Report. I'll check traffic in just a little bit. We'll have some highlights from the game last night, as well as a rundown of the rest of the series, what is set to this point on Talk 107.3 FM. All right, it's 6:20. Here comes the Fox Business Report. 7.4, excuse me. Yeah. All right, we get some problems on I-10 westbound. Right around the University Lakes is where you're going to find said problems. It's just so hard to do without the internet. It's 10 westbound in between Acadian and Dalrymple, so it's right about the University Lakes. It's before the Dalrymple exit, to be sure. But it's starting to stack up delays right now. Delays start just before Acadian and continue all the way up until you're up above the water right there. It's a stalled vehicle in the roadway. I'm not showing that's an accident. They're saying stalled vehicle. Happened about 30 minutes ago. Also on your interstates, you got the normal delays or normal volume on I-12 westbound starting around Denham Springs. Intermittent tapping the brakes until you get into Baton Rouge, at which point it picks back up again. On I-10 westbound coming in from Ascension Parish, we're looking great until after the 10-12 merge. When you get up to Acadia, and that's, of course, where you're going to run into what we were already talking about with the stall vehicle. Meanwhile, 10 eastbound coming in from West Baton Rouge looks great. I-110 southbound, there's another stall vehicle, 110 near Evangeline. Hopping off your interstates, looking at your surface streets about an hour ago, there was an accident with injuries. Florida at Peachtree Boulevard, Florida at Peachtree Boulevard, that is still on the board, so I would be on the lookout for that as well. That's your look at traffic from the Shawbills Tire Traffic Center. You don't have it? You don't have it? Okay. .624, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. We'll get you to who else is making the trip to Omaha in just a second. First, though, let's revisit a couple of the highlights from last night. Normally, there's a few strikeout calls to give you. Like I said, it wasn't Anthony Einson's best night, so we'll just move to the offensive side of the ball, where LSU was just – the second inning was just phenomenal. A 6-run second. Starting off with Stephen Milam. It had one run up on the board. Stephen Milam clears the bases with a 3-run double.
The 2-1 rip down the line. Fair ball into right. Takes a huge bounce into the corner off the wall. That'll score Stanfield. That'll bring in Curiel. They wave Fry in. He will score. A base-clearing double for Stephen Milam. RBI 52, 53, and 54. And it is a 4-0 LSU lead, and this place is lit.
Gotta love it. Now, West Virginia wasn't just going to roll over and go away. They did recover a little bit, put a couple runs up on the board. LSU, however, in the 6th and 7th innings, really blew things out of the water. Final runs to come across for LSU came from Jake Brown in the 7th, who decided it was time to leave the yard again.
Runner at second, 2 down. The 2-2 to Brown. In the air, center field. On his horse, Skylar King going back, and it is gone! Over the fence, straight away, center field. Jake Brown, home run number 8, a 2-run variety. It's now 12-4, Fighting Tigers.
And 12-5 is where it would end up, propelling LSU to Omaha. So, who are they facing when they get there? Like we said, it's going to be LSU and Arkansas squaring off on Saturday. Also, in making the trip to Omaha this year, Arizona survived the Chapel Hill Super Regional. So, Arizona will take on Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina made their way out of the Auburn Regional with 2 quick wins in Auburn. Meanwhile, you've also got Louisville advancing. They beat Miami in the Louisville Super Regional. And Oregon State took care of business 2-1 in the Corvallis Super Regional, sending Florida State packing. One more team is already in. That would be UCLA, who made quick work of UTSA. The Roadrunner season is done. After taking out Texas in the regional, the Texas San Antonio Roadrunners fall 2-0 to UCLA. Now, there is one seat left available, one spot left available, and that takes us to Durham, where unbelievably Murray State is doing some battling over there with Duke. I shouldn't say unbelievably, though, because if I'm not mistaken, they were both 3 seeds in their regionals. Murray State came out of the Oxford Regional, where they knocked off Ole Miss. Western Kentucky and Georgia Tech were also in that regional. Duke was the ones that came out of the Athens Regional, where they knocked off Georgia, Binghamton, and Oklahoma State were the other 3 in that regional. So Duke and Murray State now each have 1 win apiece. And Murray State just decided to light the bats up yesterday, posting up a 19-9 win over Duke. So they'll have the run of things today. They're the only game in town today. If you are not done with college baseball for the weekend, 6 p.m. tonight on the big ESPN, Murray State takes on Duke. So that will be the last seat in Omaha. That'll be the last name up on Rocco's Jello shot board. That will be the last ones to determine their fate, to be sure. And they'll get UCLA when they get there. So looking forward to it, man. This is a different feel, a different vibe for Omaha. Fewer 1 seeds overall, fewer SEC teams overall. That seems to be a big talking point as well. There's only 2 SEC teams, and they're going to knock out one of them's going to knock the other one down to the losers bracket. So, did the SEC underperform this year, putting 13 teams in regionals and only having 2 come out the other side and make their trip to Omaha? I don't know if I'm ready to knock the conference just yet or the seeding just yet. I do think, however, that I do think, however, that other teams rising to the occasion should be every bit as much of a pat on the back for them as much as it is a shot at the SEC. I think if you're looking at any teams that might deserve a little bit of shade right now, Vandy and Texas, absolutely. Absolutely. If you watched Ole Miss play in their regional, I mean, those guys battled hard. Mississippi State, same thing. So we'll keep our eyes on it for sure. Hey, before we get you to news real quick, and coming up after news, we got Jerry Theodora from R Street. Before we get you to news, let me remind you about the folks over at Vex European, VEX, V as in Vinny. VexEuropean.com is the website. I was by there week before last just to get the old standard oil change, basic maintenance and all that. I'm about to hit the road down to New Orleans, so anytime I want to take my 18-year-old vehicle on the road, I need to make sure everything's good. And that's what they did over at Vex European. Got the service done. Take a little walk around the shop. Man, that shop was humming. Y'all are obviously listening out there because as much as the shop was humming, yeah, every bay was full, and they're just turning them over, boom, boom, boom. Did not have to wait very long. You know you're getting expertise. You know you're getting a technician that knows your vehicle at Vex European. You got Jerry Theodoro? You got Jerry Theodoro? No, his interview. Should be in today's folder. And this big change of plans today. Adeline and I were supposed to go to press club. I've got my. I thought I was going down to New Orleans tomorrow and doing shows Wednesday and Thursday.
Yeah.
I found out on Friday that I'm doing shows tomorrow and Wednesday.
Oh, gotcha.
Not my fault. Not my fault at all. And so I'll be leaving here at like 11:30ish.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Well, maybe a little sooner to go home and pack,
Mhm.
and then come back, and then me and Bo are going to drive down to New Orleans to get set up. We'll do a little pre-setup and, all the things. But
yeah.
I got to be down there for like 2:30. So.
Oh, okay.
So yes, I'll be on remote tomorrow and Wednesday.
Okay. Sounds good. I'll just do the usual.
Yeah.
Text you the live reads and all that stuff. Yeah, man.
Good morning, Christy. Welcome in, sweetheart. Oh, you know what I missed out on in sports? LSU's own Sam Burns is in a playoff to win the Canadian Open today.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
Yep.
Sweet.
Condon came down to see me.
Yeah.
Was that okay? Yeah, before we check our forecast, one more quick sports note. I almost forgot. LSU's own Sam Burns is doing battle in a playoff today out at the Canadian Open. He's tied at 18 under. They're going to a playoff hole today for that one. So get after him, Sam. All right, now it's time for a look at your forecast. Here's WBRC meteorologist Emma Kate Cowan. So we're not on the honor roll yet, but our latest report card is one we wouldn't be afraid to show our parents. We've moved up to a C in the world of insurance. Joining us now, the one who put forth that report card, Jerry Theodora from the R Street Institute. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, thanks, and good to talk to you again, Brian.
Yeah, it's been way too long since we've had you on, but we got some good news to cover this morning. So let's dive right in. Louisiana's insurance regulation report. This is the best score that we've seen locally in over a decade. Let's start with this. What goes into putting out that regulation report? What factors go into it?
Yeah, a number of factors. We look at, actually, before I answer, I want to emphasize that the role of insurance regulation, the regulator, the commissioner of insurance, is a tough job because there's two areas that they focus on. One is policyholder protection, and the other is solvency of insurance companies operating in the state. And the trick is to find the right balance. So you want to have measures that protect policyholders from fraud and that the claims processing is done as the contract stipulates and that their homes are strong enough to withstand some kinds of storms. So protecting policyholders on the one hand, and then company solvency, we look for capitalization. Insurance companies need to have enough capital, enough reserves to pay for the claims, which inevitably will come, and that they actually do pay the claims. And they do okay when they have these financial examiners come in every 5 years and do a study of the finances of the company and make sure that everything is copacetic, and also that they use the reinsurance market to protect themselves if things get really bad and they have one of these massive storms. So those are the factors. We got, on the one hand, policyholder protection, fraud, claims, and making sure that you're strong enough to withstand the expected storms. And then company solvency, insurance company solvency, enough capital to pay claims, and it does pay claims appropriately. It's got intelligent use of the reinsurance market, and it passes the financial exams. So those are the factors that we look at following what the role is of the insurance department in the state.
Okay, so what bumped us up to it? What within those factors? What bumped us up to a C in Louisiana?
Well, Louisiana has had some changes in some of the ways that rates are administered. Insurance rates in many states take a long time to get implemented, and sometimes as much as a year or even more. And that doesn't work because if the price of something goes up and doesn't come down in over a year, you've got a financial pinch. So we have the rating approach to changing the rates when appropriate, and the success of the Louisiana Fortified Homes program. Alabama was the pioneer. Several years ago, they introduced Strengthen Alabama Homes, which gives grants for homeowners in that state to make improvements, mainly to the roof, because when the roof gets blown off, that's when the destruction happens. So make sure that those roofs are strapped on to the body of the house. So Louisiana has been doing those things, and it's really continuation of the wake-up call of Katrina 2005. We saw what it's like when the levees don't hold and the people don't have enough communication. They don't get information about where to evacuate to. And we had that tragic loss of life. So gradually over the years, Louisiana has been making these kinds of improvements, a tuck here, a nip over there, and it's been climbing up. And now, after a long time, languishing as with a D or an F student, it's got a gentleman's C. And that is something to be happy about. I mean, C is not the highest grade, but when I was a little boy, and I would get a solid B a lot of times, but if some student in the class would go from an F to a C, the teacher rewards improvement. They look for improvement. So this is what's happened here, and that's why, as you said at the outset, Brian, this is it's a happy day. It's good news.
No, it is. And like I know Tim Temple's not going to be done. Our insurance commissioner's not going to be done anytime soon until we can get higher than a C, to be sure, until we can make an honor roll, to be sure. But this is a report card I wouldn't mind bringing home to my parents, especially considering previous report cards that we've had. We're talking with Jerry Theodora. He's the policy director for finance, insurance, and trade over at the R Street Institute. Jerry, I got to ask you, before we move on to anything else, is an A attainable in a state like Louisiana? Because we have to battle nature constantly.
Yeah, that is tough. I mean, 2020 to 2021, you had 4 horrific hurricanes culminating with Ida, which was the worst of the lot.
Yep.
But really, it's the structure. It's the structure of the insurance protections that are there. So the state that has a lot of exposure from catastrophes doesn't mean that it's going to get a D or an F. Florida has, because of its history of hurricanes and losses there, it's a peninsula jutting into real warm waters, has done a lot in the state to minimize losses. The way they deal with their insurer of last resort, the way that they try to bring in private companies. So even though they get hit with a lot of storms, it doesn't mean that they'll never get up to a B or an A. The things that we look at are the ability or the ability, the structures that allow companies to be there tomorrow when we need them, and for homeowners in Louisiana to be able to afford insurance and for it to be available. So availability and affordability are big issues for the policyholder side when we said policyholder protection on the one hand and solvency of insurance companies and capital on the other. So yeah, absolutely. There is a possibility of moving up.
Okay, what does it take to move up then? What do we need to do to check a few more boxes and slide up to a B?
Yeah, well, one thing which also shades of Florida is a lot of litigation activity that goes on. There's a lot of people that rush to a lawyer every time they have an insurance claim, and there's certain bad actors that take advantage of insurance companies. There are these staged accidents, really, which are the product of organized crime, where people pretend to be severely injured and they try to shake down the insurance companies for damages that didn't really happen. So there's progress being made there as well. The governor has been pushing for tort reform, which will really cut the legs off of some of these abusive legal system abuses that take advantage of insurance companies having hundreds of millions of dollars of assets. A bank robber was once asked, why do you rob banks? Answer was, well, that's where the money is.
Where the money is, yep.
Well, fact is that insurance companies actually have more money than banks do. So they're real targets for fraudsters. And the tort reforms that the governor is introducing will go a long way. It worked in Florida 2 years ago in March 2023. Governor DeSantis signed tort reform into law in Florida, which is loaded with billboard lawyers all over the place. And wouldn't you know it, things are better already. The number of lawsuits are down, rates are coming down, insurance is getting cheaper for many companies. So the introduction of those kinds of measures for Louisiana would also be a positive influence that could move the grade up.
very interesting that that's the takeaway from the outside looking in, because here within the state, the governor's getting ripped for not doing enough. I mean, he's done, Jerry, he's done more than anybody else has in the past. He had a bill signing ceremony last week where he signed off on a number of bills that address specifically this, but there's certain things that hang up, like medical transparency, when Louisiana is double the national average for medical claims. So I'm encouraged to hear that the outside in, it looks like we're doing more right than wrong, whereas from the inside, we could tend to bicker over the one thing we're missing.
Yeah, and you mentioned the medical billing. That is an issue. It goes by the name of phantom damages, because what you have is the discount off of the rack rate for medical procedure is billed and is presented in court for reimbursement from the insurance company, or presented to the insurance company. But the actual amount of money that was spent is a lot less, and that's not revealed. So there's a difference there. There's a delta there, which goes into the pocket of the attorneys and these medical mills that are involved in these kinds of schemes. So yeah, phantom damages is one of the areas of tort reform where progress can be made. And as a matter of fact, I wrote a study on the insurance market in Louisiana, and the title of the study is "More Mitigation, Not Litigation." So mitigation works. You take those measures, strap the roof on, and clear the house with an appropriate perimeter. So mitigating losses and reducing the chances of having these severe losses. Again, Katrina taught us the importance of having structures capable of withstanding. Everybody was watching the levees. With Katrina, they didn't hold.
Yep.
So when we had Hurricane Ian a couple of years ago, everybody was wondering, will the levees hold? And they did, because the state took these measures to avoid the kind of result we had with Katrina.
Got just a couple minutes off with Jerry Theodora, Policy Director of Insurance, Finance, and Trade over at the R Street Institute. Okay, want to ask this one before we get you out of here, and that is, you mentioned Florida seeing rates drop right now. Have we done enough in Louisiana to expect a rate drop?
Yeah, I'd say yes, because another similarity is that Florida is welcoming 12 new insurers into the market. The commissioner licensed 12 new insurers. So capital money is backing insurance in Florida. And in Louisiana, there are 10 new companies that have been licensed. So when you have more competition, when you've got more companies from the private market, not Louisiana Citizens, which is the state-run insurer of last resort, but when you have more private companies there competing, then that'll eventually be translated into lower prices. That's what competition does.
Last one before you get out of here, Jerry, and I greatly, greatly appreciate your time this morning. And that is about some of the things on a national level that look like, when they're passed in Congress over in D.C., they should affect everybody evenly, but they tend to take a greater toll here in Louisiana. Talking specifically about risk rating 2.0. Do things like that affect our score? Do things like that show up when it comes to insurance companies and how they look at us as well?
It's not part of the algorithm that we use to generate the grades, the scores. NFIP, National Flood Insurance Program, has become a political hot potato.
Oh yeah.
There's underpricing and overpricing that are in there. And now thanks for mentioning risk rating 2.0, where you have a more appropriate allocation of premium to the risk. The premium follows the risk. So, and this is going to take some time to earn in and to reach the appropriate levels. And a complicating factor is, of course, what's going on in Washington with the cutbacks. FEMA, the NFIP is administered by FEMA, Emergency Management, and you had those wild cuts of Elon Musk. Well, no more now, but really had an impact there. And we were asking the question. I was asking the question. Well, if FEMA is going to be gutted, what happens to the NFIP?
Right.
Because some folks, when on the Hill, were saying, "Oh, just abolish it, let the private market come in." can't step in and just start from scratch like that. So we agree that it's better to try to fix a government program like the NFIP rather than tossing out and throwing out the baby with the bathwater.
Fantastic stuff. He is Jerry Theodora from the R Street Institute. It's been far too long. I'm going to make sure we stay in touch a lot more frequently. Great segment. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Brian. Be well.
Good stuff. Caught up with Jerry on Friday. He was actually traveling today. He was supposed to come on in this segment live, but he hit me up last week. He's like, I'm going to be on the road, man. I'm so sorry. He said, I'm going to be in an airport. I'm so sorry. I'm like, dude, we can wing it if you want to do it from the airport, or if you want to record it right now. He's like, is that an option? Yeah, it's an option.
Yeah, man. I'm glad it worked out. It's good stuff.
Damn it. There's no audio on this. All right, fine. 655 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Coming up next hour, Dr. Curtis Chastain going to join us, talk a little men's health in our Medical Monday segment. Of course, Medical Monday presented by Our Lady of the Lake every Monday. We'll talk men's health and sudden cardiac arrest as well. Actually, those two things are tied together. That's Dr. Chastain coming up at 7:15, 7:35. Will Green, President and CEO of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry, hops on the hotline. We will kind of set the table for the last week of the legislative session, as it is the last week of the legislative session. Sunday night can be no later than Thursday. So, budget's being voted on today. After that, it'll be some cleanup for a couple days, and it's looking like they're going to get out right on Thursday. I was asking a couple legislators over the last 2 weeks or so if they thought there was any chance they were getting out early, and everybody basically said no. So, we'll roll with that. Maybe a couple of hours early at the best. So, we'll talk with Will Green from LABI at 7:35. In the 8 o'clock hour, of course, we talk everything under the sun with Moon at 8:15. And then State Representative Barbara Freiberg. Barbara Freiberg has been getting some work done on truancy this session with a resolution and a bill. Now, the bill came up short, but the resolution did pass. And the resolution sets it up for the bill to come back later on. So I can't wait to talk about that a little bit. Barbara, of course, has always had a focus on education, truancy playing along with that. So she's been doing that work and doing a few other things within the legislative session. We'll talk with her at 8:35. Right now, though, actually, before we get into our next news story, which sticks with the session, do need to remind you about the folks at the Baton Rouge Metro Airport. FlyBTR.com is the website, FlyBTR.com. Wherever your travels are taking you, you can likely get there starting at BTR. Of course, you'll look at the direct flights, and if there's not a direct flight, there's something you can piggyback off of that'll get you there. For example, Franz went to Green Bay last week. Attorney Franz Borghardt does legally serve with us every Wednesday. Yeah, he was up in Wisconsin at the end of last week. Where'd he start his journey? Fly BTR, Baton Rouge Metro Airport. So much easier, so much more convenient. Not to mention you're supporting a local business when you fly Baton Rouge and flybtr.com. Got the daily flight to Washington, D.C., lands at Reagan National, comes back in the evening. Check it out. Learn more at flybtr.com. So I had one of two places we could go here. I want to follow up on that AARP story we heard in our news at the bottom of the hour. But also want to let you know, coming up at 7, let's tease this up for 7:55. The U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick has really put the kibosh on the broadband that's being worked on here in Louisiana. And it looks like Louisiana might be to blame for it as well. BEAD, Broadband Equity Access and Deployment, the BEAD program, kind of being put on hold right now. And that really, really screws us over. We'll talk about that an hour from now. Right now, though, going back to the story from news, AARP Louisiana is urging Governor Landry to veto Senate Bill 134. This would cap malpractice damages against nursing homes at $500,000. The organization says it would effectively eliminate people's ability to hold nursing homes accountable for malpractice. We had Andrew Mull on the show not too long ago, and Louisiana Radio Network caught up with him as well, saying nursing homes in Louisiana, they rank as the worst in the nation.
Unfortunately, if the governor signs SB 134 into law, we will be making them even unsafer than they already are, and we'll be making them even worse.
Sorry, I should have said among the worst in the nation, not the worst in the nation. Important clarification right there. Mull says oversight in the nursing home industry has been decreasing over the years.
Nursing home owners will know that any type of neglect or abuse, they won't be held to the same standard that every other state is held to.
So Senator Thomas Presley is the one that put this bill up, and he says, to his end, it clarifies the Medical Malpractice Act, which was apparently intended to include nursing homes to begin with.
It puts the management companies, regardless of how their business's governance structure is set up, that they would be under the Medical Malpractice Act, whether or not they're making decisions at a corporate office or on site.
And isn't that all the difference there? Don't we need to find some kind of, I get the medical malpractice end of it, but man, there's got to be some middle ground to avoid things like we saw after Hurricane Ida. Hour two's next. Condon said the same thing I did. The guy just quit. And then Scott said something even more alarming. Do we need to look around for a body?
For what?
A body.
No way.
car's here. I didn't know his car was here.
Oh. That's pretty serious. I mean, that's.
I know.
Oh crap! I took the trash out of the.
Thank you. Where'd you put it?
Well, the garbage is locked.
Yeah.
I think so. I just put it by the back door.
Okay.
I went back there. I was like, oh, I'm gonna take it out, and then I was like, oh crap! I think it's locked. So it's by the back door where I come in.
Well, Scott put that in my head. Now it's not getting out.
Well, now that you put it in my head, now I'm thinking about it. Like, is the guy maybe in the basement? Maybe he fell? Could have slipped? That is odd. That's very strange.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Happy endings at the Tony Awards? I mean, honestly, it would take more than that to get me to watch.
Oh, man.
Was my mic on for that?
Yes.
Okay. Just making sure. By the way, I want y'all to know it has been unbelievably difficult for me to be an adult on the radio this morning. Like, with all the hubbub over Donald Trump calling in the National Guard for the protest over the ICE raids.
Yeah.
And you know I've got that bit that I'm sitting on about what if ICE executed raids the way that restaurants celebrate birthdays? Would that make it better? Would that make it better? And you have to have Ray Charles queued up. But like instead of like a traditional ICE raid, they just all came out dressed like the Three Amigos, wearing sombreros and singing "Hit the Road, Jack."
Oh, man.
Maybe at the end of the show. Maybe.
Really?
Yeah. You'd have to cue it up to the beginning of the singing and get rid of the music on the front end, or it wouldn't time out right. It wouldn't be funny.
Well, just let me know.
Yeah.
if you're looking to go that route.
After we talk about the Buckies and Mississippi, that's the problem, is I don't know how long that bit's going to last.
Mm.
7:05 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Hour 2 coming your way right now. Busy hour this hour. Dr. Curtis Chastain in for our Medical Monday segment next with Our Lady of the Lake. We've got also this hour, Will Green, President, CEO of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry, slated as well. I was teasing in the last segment about having, talking about broadband at 7:55 because Howard Lutnick has put the kibosh on what we were doing here in Louisiana. Kevin says on Facebook Live, isn't broadband a bit archaic? I don't understand why we wouldn't migrate to something more modern, such as Starlink. I think the problem with migrating to something like Starlink is once you're in Starlink's hands, you're in Elon's hands. Do you really want to put that much power in the hands of the man who basically called the president a pedophile on his way out of the office in the midst of a nasty breakup? I mean, as those two are fighting back and forth, can you imagine if Elon had the kind of power to say, I can hit the off switch whenever I want, y'all? As opposed to actually running the fiber, which was coming in at 44% under budget. 44% under, we'll get to it. Anyway, great question, Kevin, or great point to the conversation, Kevin. We'll talk about that at 7:55. Right now, top stories and trending.
Number 5.
Actually, bad host. Sorry about that. Kevin's comment is on our Facebook Live. We're live on Facebook every day, courtesy of the folks at Lake Urgent Care. All right, let's start you off here. St. George School District is one step closer to reality. Out of the state capitol, senators approved a bill allowing St. George to create its own school district. The bill was penned by Senator Rick Edmonds. It passed the Senate on Sunday night 26-5. The House still has to approve the bill today, and then it'll go before voters in a statewide election in April of next year.
Number 4.
A Catholic priest with the Baton Rouge Diocese unexpectedly passed away yesterday morning. Father Gregory J. Daigle died Sunday morning, June 8th. St. John the Evangelist Catholic Church over in Plaquemine said Father Greg was taken ill during the 9 a.m. Mass. He was rushed to a hospital where he later passed away. He was 66 years old, serving as St. John's pastor.
Number 3.
Sadie Roberts Joseph's children have been waiting and hoping since they learned of the arrest of the man police said killed their mother. They've been waiting for Saturday, where Ron Bell was convicted Saturday of second-degree murder in the 2019 killing of 75-year-old Roberts Joseph. Roberts Joseph had been a civil rights activist in Baton Rouge, helped to found the African American Museum. She was also Bell's landlord, and he was late on his rent, way behind on his rent. She was found dead in the trunk of her car, which was parked near a vacant house on North 20th Street.
Number 2.
Baton Rouge Metro Council could approve an agreement in the coming weeks that would allow BRPD to be featured on a live reality television show called On Patrol Live. And the title of the show kind of tells you exactly what it is. The show features live broadcasts of ride-alongs with police officers.
Number 1.
3 people were injured in an early morning shooting that happened on I-10 westbound in Ascension Parish. The sheriff's office said around 2 a.m. they responded to reports of gunfire along 10 West in Prairieville. Deputy said, this was 2 a.m. Sunday. Deputy said a vehicle with multiple people inside was traveling westbound when an unknown vehicle approached and opened fire. Authorities say 3 people were shot. 2 of the passengers suffered critical injuries. Victims were able to exit the interstate and call 911, where they're taken to a hospital from there. What's trending, John?
Well, President Donald Trump is deploying National Guard troops to Los Angeles as violent protests continue. So there's that this morning.
Yeah. Lighting cars on fire, assaulting police officers, telling officers that their families are going to be dead. I don't know how that's not just a threat right there. Why is that not immediate arrest of everybody?
One would think.
I don't know. And the thing is, it sets up for now the response from everybody else on Facebook is going to be, you see, Donald Trump wanted a police state from the beginning because he's a fascist. No, you skipped the part where you lit cars on fire and assaulted police officers. You didn't just protest with signs and matching T-shirts. This got violent. This got bad. And then the response is going to be, well, how's it any different than January 6th? To which I would respond to that, well, on January 6th, you wanted the National Guard called out. Why don't you now?
Right. Oh, man. This sucks. But in other news, a private lunar lander from Japan crashed while attempting a touchdown Friday, the latest casualty in the commercial rush to the moon.
Didn't realize that Japan was in a commercial rush to the moon. Did not see that one coming. Got to tell you. Didn't see that one coming. I want to know who else is trying to go to the moon.
Oh man, I'm sure. I'm sure.
How badly do I want to get myself in trouble right now?
Yeah, we don't. I don't know, Brian. Usually, I'm just like, go for it. But now that I don't know, where
Well, because you know what's coming later in the show, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
depends on how
Is India trying to go to the moon?
Is what?
India trying to go to the moon? Nope. Leave the punch. You write your own punchline.
You know
I'll tell you what. We'll be safe right there. Write your own punchline. If there's a commercial rush to get to the moon, what does India bring to the table?
Oh man. Hey, in other
Check
news,
out Times 11 and there's a continental breakfast.
Oof. Attorneys for Sean Diddy Combs are once again asking a judge to declare a mistrial in his sex trafficking and racketeering case.
That is the most gruesomely morbid and disgusting. It's like everything about it is it's weird and disgusting constantly.
Yeah.
Weird and disgusting. And I don't check in on it every day, but every time I do hear something about it, and I don't actively seek it. Like it'll pop up in my TikTok feed once in a while. Actually, no. It pops up on Instagram and Reels. Yeah. I don't get it over on TikTok.
Oh.
But on Instagram Reels, that'll pop up somebody giving their breakdown of that day in the Diddy trial. And I'm like, man, I am worse off as a human for listening to this.
Oof.
It's gross.
You need to take a shower after that.
I know.
Yeah, it's pretty funky, but you're right. It's one of those things I don't seek out either. It just tends to pop up
Just
every
appears.
now and then.
Yeah.
And
there's no escaping it. Too many people are dialed in on it.
Yeah.
It's reached critical mass. So even if it's not in my algorithm, it's in the algorithm of people who would have similar algorithms to me, which puts it in my algorithm.
That's right.
I didn't seek this. I don't want this. But because there's so many people that meet the same demographics as me that do want it, it ends up back here. It's like the stupid videos for First Amendment warriors. You know, the sovereign citizens that know their rights.
Yeah. You get a lot of those too?
A lot. A surprising amount.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. You hit one of them was in Baton Rouge. I think it was last year.
Oh.
Yeah. Went and tried to audit the sheriff's office.
Oh, man.
And And the story that he tells online versus the story that happened in real life.
Yeah.
Completely different. Completely different.
Fudging it just a little bit?
Just a little bit. Yeah. 713 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. We got Medical Monday coming up next. Before Medical Monday, let me remind you about the folks over at Landmark Bank. LandmarkBankLA.com is the website. LandmarkBankLA.com. If you were in the surrounding areas around Baton Rouge, you're not gonna find a Landmark Bank in downtown Baton Rouge, but you are going to find them in Zachary. You're going to find them in Clinton. You're going to find them in Bruley. In fact, if you go to LandmarkBankLA.com, you get the full list, the rundown of where they are. And this is very, very intentional. Founded in 1897 as a community bank. And now in 2025, they remain a community bank. They've been true to their mission from day one. You're not going to lack in services. You're not going to lack in availability. You're not going to lack in ability when you visit Landmark Bank. But what you're going to gain is a banker, someone who can trust, someone who you can trust, someone who their success relies upon your success. So you can, pardon the pun, bank on it. Check them out at landmarkbankla.com. Quick break. Dr. Chastain's next.
All right. And that's him on the line.
Cool.
Yeah, man.
Bridget sent me some questions, but you and I are just going to riff. I mean, I'm going to start with the first questions on the page, but it's going to go wherever the conversation goes from there. Yes, sir. Right. We're in traffic right now, coming your way in about 45 seconds. Thanks. Y'all get ready for this show to finally find the right kind of energy this morning. I truly, truly enjoy talking to Dr. Chastain. He talks as men do. It's not. Like.
Yeah.
I was just telling him I was sent some questions, but this is going to lead. We're just going to converse.
Yeah.
We're going to have a conversation.
Where it's that type of guy where you can just have that conversation. Yeah.
$7:16, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Every Monday, we get the chance to catch up with the folks over at Our Lady of the Lake. Today, we have a special treat with Dr. Curtis Chastain. And it's time for Medical Monday. Let's go. Dr. Chastain, welcome back. It has been too long, sir.
Yes, sir. Brian Haldane, thank you so much for having me on the show. I love it when you ask me to do this, especially on days when we find out the Tigers are going to Omaha.
Right? Exactly. Yes. And that's, I was going to make a horrible, cardiac arrest joke right there because it would lead us into our conversation. But when you win by multiple runs on back-to-back nights, it's not really cardiac anymore. They had this one in the bag. So let's talk.
All right.
Okay. We've heard you speak about heart attacks in the past, quite a bit, but what is the difference between cardiac arrest and a regular heart attack? Sudden cardiac arrest, it's different. Tell us how.
It's different. Think about a regular heart attack as the one you see on TV. It talks to you. You're having chest pain. You say, Brian, I think I'm having a heart attack. Take me to the emergency room. I'm awake. I'm alert. I'm talking. A sudden cardiac arrest, by definition, is sudden, and it comes on without warning at all. The difference is heart attack number one, the regular heart attack, has about a 75% survival rate if you can get me to any emergency room anywhere. The second heart attack, a sudden cardiac arrest, has a 9% survival rate, and that's why we need to identify the person that's going to have one.
How do we do that?
It's tough because in the first heart attack, we talk about prevention of heart blockage. In the second heart attack, the sudden cardiac arrest, the one we're talking about this morning, we have to assume the victim already has coronary artery disease because the mechanism is, ironically, a 40%, 50% blockage that doesn't bother you, doesn't talk to you, doesn't cause chest pain, suddenly ruptures and causes the sudden cardiac arrest. So our emphasis has to shift on finding the individual that already has the blockage. And that means typically cardiac imaging. And we can talk about that in a minute. But what I want to say is a standard stress test that everybody talks about will not identify the person who's going to have a sudden cardiac arrest. And that's why you hear people who suddenly die, a story like, hey, well, he just saw his doctor 6 weeks ago and had a stress test and did fine on it.
Right.
That's because these lesions that cause the sudden cardiac arrest don't typically cause problems until they break open and rupture.
We're talking with Dr. Curtis Chastain about sudden cardiac arrest as part of a Men's Health Awareness Month, actually, for our Medical Monday segment, which is, of course, presented by Our Lady of the Lake. You said 9% survival rate on sudden cardiac arrest. Okay, let's talk about, as best we can, how do we determine who's most at risk here?
Well, let's take a step back, how common this is. This is the number one killer of people in this country. Number one killer, 356,000 people die every year of this. To put that in perspective, that is 5 Boeing 737s fully loaded, all 5 of them crashing and killing everybody aboard, all 5 planes every day. Every day. But yet we kind of cast it off and don't think too much about it because, sadly, we don't hear much about it because it just suddenly happens.
The sudden part is the part that I think should, get everybody at least not afraid, but at least alert. is it when you talk about sudden, like there's little pains and little things that go on in your body on a regular basis anyway. Are there any of those warning signs that we need to be paying attention to?
Of course, they can be. They certainly can be. In fact, there was a huge study done on survivors of sudden cardiac arrest. And remember, there's not many of them, but they cobbled together survivors of sudden cardiac arrest, and over half of them were having symptoms up to a month prior to their event, and they never told anyone. Typically, because they can be very subtle.
Right.
A chest pain here or there, a palpitation or a fluttering of your heart here or there, a near passing out spell, that you discount and don't think too much about it. But as it turns out, it was your body talking to you and telling you this thing was about to happen.
And all of those, I mean, they all sound like, classic symptoms of other things that are nothing as well. I think it's probably why they're ignored.
And like we talked about, typically the victim of sudden cardiac arrest, we know the victim of sudden cardiac arrest already has coronary blockage. And one more little statistic for you. 40% of the people that die of a sudden cardiac arrest, their first symptom that there was something wrong with their heart was they dropped dead. And I'm not trying to scare people. I'm not trying to get people all revved up, but it's a different problem than traditional heart attacks where there's a little blockage. Ooh, I have chest pain. You go get a stent, you go get a bypass, and you're okay. If you believe that you have coronary artery blockage, and how would you know? Well, your dad had it, or your brother had it, or you've been told that you have it already. Mm-hmm. If you're that person, you need to be assessed. And you alluded to it earlier. You have to go have a test called a CT calcium score. The CT calcium score. It's a simple CT scan. It takes 7 minutes. And what it does is it x-rays your heart and looks for calcification. What's calcification? Calcification is the foundation, if you will, like you have a foundation of a house. It's the foundation of a heart blockage. And it lights up like a Christmas tree on a CT scanner. And if you've got heart blockage, if your CT calcium score shows blockage, you're at risk for a sudden cardiac arrest.
And this is the cardiac imaging you were referring to earlier?
Yes, sir. It's sadly enough, the insurance companies won't pay for it, but it's about $100. What a heck of an investment to find out if you're at risk for this horrible thing.
Yeah.
And you actually can do something about it to prevent it from happening.
Okay, let's talk about what happens once it's found. Let's say you take the CT scan, you find that the calcium score is not where you want it to be. What do we do then?
We get on high-dose cholesterol-lowering medication that gives you a dramatic reduction in risk of having the heart attack, about 27%. If you're a businessman and somebody says, I'll give you a 27% return on your money, you'd take it all day long, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I'm sorry, step in.
So once you know you're the guy. Once you know that you've got the potential for blockage, you get on medication. We lower your risk. We lower your cholesterol level very, very low, which gives you a 27% reduction in having a sudden cardiac arrest. And then that's what we do. And then if the calcium score is bad, really, really, really bad, we can do other tests, like we can do other imaging tests to see how bad it is. But typically we're finding an asymptomatic individual who now finds out, I've got some blockages in my heart. I need to get on cholesterol medicine immediately and reduce my risk of having a
I'm sorry. I'm going to jump in real quick. Dr. Chastain, we're going to put you on hold real quick. John's going to pick up. Your voice keeps digitizing. I think we have you're on a bad line right there. So let's hit him up so we can reconnect, disconnect and reconnect. You're, of course, listening to Medical Monday, presented by Our Lady of the Lake. We visit every Monday at this time with the folks from Our Lady of the Lake, and Dr. Chastain's breaking down some really, really good information, and I don't want us to miss a word of it. I don't want us to miss a single word of it. So let's hang up with the doc, and then he will reconnect very quickly. I want to get back into this conversation as quickly as possible. So while we have a moment, of course, if you have comments and wanted to contribute anything along the way, we've got our Facebook Live feed running right now. Of course, presented by the folks over at Lake Urgent Care. But overall, we're going to pick right back up here. Okay. Good. All right. All right, Dr. Chastain.
Yes, sir. Sorry about that.
No. That's way better now. Way better now. I bet. And what you were feeding us, I wanted everybody to eat because that was it was really good stuff. I just didn't want it all digitized and lost in translation.
Okay.
So we're picking back up with where we left off, and basically what I was asking is once that calcium score is found to be not where we want it to be, and you said you put them on cholesterol medication, and then
that reduces your risk of having the sudden cardiac arrest by about 27%.
Right.
And that's really the only hope you have at that point. Now, if the calcium score is really, really, really bad, and it shows a lot of calcification, which implies that you've got a lot of blockage, there's some additional tests that we can do to learn the extent of blockage. And in some people, we actually refer them to a cardiologist immediately for other treatments. But the key is to find the person who's not having any symptoms, nothing's bothering him. Find that person that has blockage now and get them on the medication now.
Can we reverse course here? Like once you have the calcium buildup, is the calcification just where it's going to be, or can you actually reverse course?
The calcium never goes away.
Yeah.
Just like you see a house that burns down, you always see the slab still there. The calcium never goes away. What is blocking the artery is the part that sits on top of the calcium, which is full of cholesterol. And that could be a 20% blockage up to a 90% blockage. But what we're hoping to do, and you ask a great question, can we reverse blockage? There are some studies that show if you can lower cholesterol ultra low to an LDL level of 50 or below, you can actually reverse some of the blockages. But that doesn't guarantee that they're not going to rupture anyway. But what the cholesterol medicine does, and I want to be clear with this, it's not just about lowering the cholesterol. The cholesterol medicine hardens those plaques so they're less likely to rupture. And that's the key.
We got Dr. Curtis Chastain on with us for Medical Monday talking sudden cardiac arrest. Doc, let's move from testing and prevention over to what to do if the worst happens. If someone collapses and might be having a cardiac arrest, what should a bystander do?
Bystanders should call for help immediately. Get someone to call 911 or call 911. That's key. First thing, call for help, call for 911, and then look for an AED, because this is an electrical problem. This is not a blockage problem per se. It is an electrical problem at this point. And the only thing that's going to save that individual is a shock that can be delivered by an automatic external defibrillator. And a lot of places have them hanging on the walls these days. Yeah. All you got to do is get to the patient's chest, put the pads on, turn the machine on, and it tells you what to do.
Got just a couple minutes left with Dr. Curtis Chastain. I want to go back to who is at risk and who should be on the lookout. And you mentioned, about, bloodlines and what, if you come from a family that's had heart attacks, that doesn't necessarily mean like, okay, if your dad had a heart attack, but not sudden cardiac arrest, the heart attack's the precursor here for the genetic end, right?
Right. The heart attack, and the only thing you're using is your like you said, your gene lines. If your father and brother had heart attacks, you're more at risk for having a heart attack. In fact, it's about 5 times greater than normal of having a heart attack yourself.
Wow. Okay.
And look, again, I'm not trying to scare people. Just because your dad had a heart attack doesn't mean you're going to have a heart attack. But what we're talking about is an ambush. What we're talking about is you becoming the hunter. And if you are at risk, as evidenced by a first-degree relative with heart disease, you have to become the hunter, and you have to go look for coronary disease as opposed to waiting for it to come to you.
Doc, we got about a minute left here. I want to squeeze in one quick question that came in from the Facebook live chat. Someone asked what happens if you're allergic to cholesterol-lowering meds?
There are so many different options out there. Just because you're allergic to one, and typically it's not an allergy, it's a reaction where people can't tolerate one, but there are 5 or 6 very good cholesterol-lowering meds, and there are even injectables now that we can use. So we can work around that.
Where do folks go if they want to learn more? I mean, it's obviously there needs to be a call to attention to this. Where do we go from here?
I would have anyone that's listening to this that feels like they need to know, call your primary care physician and ask for a calcium score, a CT calcium score. And they should know exactly where to steer you to get this done.
He is, and if your normal primary care physician can't really help, where do we go from there?
Just give us a call. We will help you figure it out. We are Lake Men's Health. Just call our office at 765-4400, and we'll figure it out with you.
765-4400 is the number. Looking for a CT calcium score. He is Dr. Curtis Chastain. We always appreciate your time. Great to catch up with you.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care. Here comes news. Sorry, I wanted to make up the time that we lost when he was. Yeah, that's fine. Oh, the kids count data book can suck a fat one. All right, what's your forecast looking like for the first half of the week? Here is WBRZ meteorologist Tim and Kate Cowan. .737 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. So, Senate got together yesterday as we are now in our last week of the legislative session. And, things aren't going sideways just yet, but there was a little bit of drama. Bringing us up to speed on all of this is Will Green, President and CEO of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. How are you, sir?
Good morning, Brian. I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing well. Doing very well on this end as well. All right, so what happened yesterday?
A lot going on, Brian.
Yeah.
As you know, not unusual. The last week of session, bills start getting amended, and some for the good, some for the okay, and some not so good. Yesterday, a couple of really good things happened, especially on the insurance reform front. Senate Bill 231, which is the medical expense transparency.
Did we lose him? There he is.
For a second there. Medical expense transparency bill that Senator Reese had that would make sure that the jury gets to see not only the sticker price of the bill, of the medical bill, but also what was charged, and are limited to awarding what was charged as long as health insurance is used. That bill made it, it's a Senate bill originally, made it through House committee and then made it off the House floor yesterday. And so that is a good bill. We hope that'll be concurred with in the Senate as early as tomorrow. And so that's a bill that will put us in line with more in line with states like Texas and Arkansas and Alabama. Gets us closer to the major insurance medical expense transparency reform that they did in Florida and Georgia. Not all the way there yet. We've still got to figure out how to get cash paid bills in front of the jury like Florida and Georgia did, but we think this is a good step in the right direction, like I said, to put us more in line with some of our neighboring states. And so that was a really, really positive step forward yesterday. I'm
gonna hop in on this one, Will, if I could, because so all this does is make sure that the jury is aware of both numbers. They don't have to rule in favor of one or the other or anywhere in between. Like there's no restriction put on the jury. They can see what was billed and what was paid and decide we're still going to award based off of what was billed.
No. So the jury sees both numbers.
Right.
But as far as health insurance is concerned, the jury is limited to awarding what was actually paid. And so that is pretty significant there. And so there is no more windfall. And so the jury, as long as health insurance is used, health insurance is paid, damages are limited to what was actually paid to the claimant. And so there is no more of this gray area on 40% of the difference or some other made up number. And so again, this is a pretty big step in the right direction towards making sure that a fair amount is awarded. And so, again, this puts us more in line with Texas, with Alabama, with a bill that just passed in Arkansas to ensure that, if you use insurance, if insurance paid a specific amount, then that is what the jury will reward as damages, is what was actually paid, not the sticker amount that what was charged.
That is huge.
As far as health insurance is concerned.
Yeah.
So it's a big step in the right direction for transparency, and for fair damage awards. So obviously, and I mentioned Florida and Georgia, their legislation that passed this year, they went a step further and said that, if insurance wasn't used, for example, if you don't have health insurance, or if the doctor does not take health insurance and the injured party, used some other agreement or cash paid, the defense was able to put on evidence of what a reasonable charge would be. The bill does not cover that. And so all the bill covered is if health insurance is involved. And so, we'll try to work in the off season on maybe some language on next year to try to address that layer of collateral source. We did not address that this year. This specifically involves if health insurance is used, if health insurance paid the bill, then the jury is limited to awarding that amount. And so again, it's one piece of the puzzle, but it's a big piece of that puzzle, getting us to fair and transparent awards in damages.
Okay, now talk to me about why it's important to get over that next step as well, because it's very easy on the outside looking in just to say, oh, well, if the insurance company is only on the hook for what's actually paid, then what's the problem here? Well, the problem then becomes if you've solved the problem from the health insurance side, but taking it back to the jury and what they award, that still affects our car insurance side.
Sure. So, look, the reality is that not everybody uses their health insurance. Not
Right.
all providers take health insurance. And so, if an injured party in a car accident, goes to a provider and either the provider doesn't take health insurance or the injured party chooses not to use their health insurance, then the jury only gets to see the sticker price because health insurance is not involved.
Right.
And so all the legislation covers is if health insurance is involved and if health insurance made a payment, the jury is limited to awarding what health insurance paid. Well, that presupposes health insurance is involved. We know a lot of times health insurance is not involved in these personal injury accidents or in these personal injury lawsuits. And so that's why in Georgia and in Florida and in other states that are solving this issue, they're coming in and saying, well, if health insurance wasn't involved or if there's a cash pay scenario, we need some mechanism for the defense to be able to put on evidence of what a reasonable amount or what a reasonable reimbursement would have been.
Yeah.
And so, again, we didn't get there this year. We hope to continue that discussion in the off season and possibly present that legislation next year.
Yeah, it's one thing to have this giant leap in the right direction. It's another thing altogether to make this leap and know where the next step comes from, which puts us in a pretty good spot. We're talking with Will Green, President and CEO of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. Let's move over to the legacy lawsuit front. A little bit of drama there as well.
Yeah, so about a roughly 250-page bill that started out as the Department of Natural Resources kind of reorganization bill. Think like the Workforce Commission got a facelift, the LED got a facelift, DOTD is getting a reorganizational facelift, to kind of realign and retool and restructure to really make those departments run more efficiently. Well, that 250-page bill ended up getting significantly amended in House Natural Resources last week. And then it got significantly amended again on the House floor yesterday. The amendments covered everything from, carbon capture and sequestration, involving pipelines, eminent domain. And it also restructured how legacy lawsuits are handled in Louisiana. And so, when you amend amendments to amendments on a 250-page bill. Obviously, that's really difficult to track that language, and so we're still digesting all of that to really see the full implications of what that bill is going to do. Right now we know that it really revamps and restructures the mechanism of how legacy lawsuits will be filed and will be, I guess, adjudicated moving forward. And there's a lot of good things in there. One of the legacy lawsuits have set our oil and gas industry back decades. We've really needed a structure to adjudicate these things in a quick and a cost-effective and a transparent measure to get the land, cleaned up, but done in a way that brings not only oil and gas but also the landowners to the table in a fair mechanism. And so the bill really has a lot of good compromises between landowners and industry in there. But it also has a few issues as well, like the effective date of the bill doesn't go into effect until, I believe, September of 2027. And so, that creates a few issues, but really the meat of the legacy lawsuit amendment creates really a process that tries to get the adjudication of the disputes done quickly. It tries to create some certainty in damages. It tries to create a process where DNR is the expert in what is the plan to clean up the land. And so I think landowners like that, industry like that. And so, we're still, again, digesting all those amendments, but, as best we can tell, outside of the implementation date, a lot of the legacy language in there on getting the disputes resolved quickly and efficiency between landowner and industry, we're a pretty good compromise.
The word quickly is pretty relative right there. We're talking with Will Green, President and CEO of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. Got about a minute and a half left. Will, set the table for what the final week's going to look like.
So, obviously we'll be monitoring several pieces of legislation, the DOTD reorganization. We'll be, hoping that, the Kelly bad faith bill, that's Senate Bill 111, that's one other piece of the insurance reform puzzle, that, along with collateral source, those two bills will be urging the governor to sign those. And really that'll close the book on what really was a successful insurance reform session. Didn't get everything we wanted, but again, if you look at states that like Florida and Georgia and North Carolina, states that have done insurance reform, they did it over a few year span. And so, looking back, this really was a successful year. We need to get the DOTD reform over the finish line, and then we'll be watching out for bad amendments as the waning days of session drag on.
Yes, watching out for bad amendments is a big part of this, because now's the time when folks get downright sneaky. And honestly, this is where a lot of bills just fall short because of that, and there's no time to recover. In the meanwhile, we always appreciate your time. He's Will Green, President and CEO of LABI. We're looking forward to, well, you know what? I'm out next Monday. So we're going to have to get the postmortem. We'll reschedule to get the postmortem in short order. Will, always appreciate the time, brother.
Sounds great, Brian. Thank you.
Thank you. It's 7:50 at Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Take a quick break. Check your money now. We'll check traffic, and we will continue next. You know what? I bet you Dixon and Emily would want to have Will on. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take 1 second to walk around and look at the rest of the studios on this floor. Because the vacuum is on this floor. Yes. Was that wrong of me?
Very strange.
All right. I share everything with the crew, so I'm going to share this with y'all as well. Got here this morning, and there's a vacuum sitting outside the elevator on the second floor and a bag of garbage inside the elevator. And I don't normally take the elevator in the morning, so if I hadn't run out of paper at the printer, I wouldn't even know that there was a bag of garbage in there. But the bag of garbage smelled like it had been there for a couple days. And now we're like wondering, did someone who, like one of the porters, did they just quit in the middle of the weekend? Like they just walked off the job. But someone else said their car's still here. So that opens up a whole other set of questions. .755 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Going to talk broadband here in just a quick second. Before we do, though, got to remind you about the folks over at Breck. Breck.org is the website. They've got their media day tomorrow. Oh, man. I'm going to be down in New Orleans. I'm not going to get to go. Breck's media day is tomorrow. I look forward to this. Get an update from, the interim superintendent of Breck. Find out a little bit about what they've got going on, where the plans are headed, what's in store over the summer and into the fall. Because Breck is, they're tasked with being all things to all people, right? No matter what it is you do recreationally, they try to fit you in. Whether it's pickleball, whether it's frisbee golf, whether it's they got rugby on Saturdays in the fall, for crying out loud. I don't know if Breck runs the rugby or they just play the rugby at the Breck Park, but either way, that's always fun to just show up on a Saturday and see a bunch of dudes out there rugbying. If you want to learn more about a number of the things that they have to offer, Breck.org is the website. By the way, still spots open at certain summer camps. Not too late to get in on that. Breck.org is your home base for that. B-R-E-C, Breck.org. So, this sucks. The National Telecommunications and Information Administration on Friday released its much-anticipated guidance for states on the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment, or BEAD, program. The new BEAD guidance, which comes 3 months after Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick announced his intentions to revamp the $42.45 billion program, features a removal of what Lutnick called, quote, burdensome regulations imposed by the Biden administration on states and bidding internet service providers. These now axed stipulations include the program's labor and employment requirements and its climate reporting requirements. And as Lutnick promised, the new guidance also includes a move towards tech-neutral approach, dropping the Biden administration's fiber-first strategy. So in reading this, and I'm getting this from a website called State Scoop, in reading this, it looks like Governor Jeff Landry sent a letter to Lutnick talking about utilizing more low Earth orbit satellites as opposed to fixed wireless. The story goes on to say the removal of fiber first opens more pathways for states to spend BEAD funds on technologies like low Earth orbit satellites and fixed wireless. This is a move that some states like Louisiana were pushing for. I'm going to go back, and I haven't had a chance to get fully caught up on this because it happened on Friday. I actually found out about it Saturday afternoon. And there's a lot of reading up to do here, but the long and the short of it is all the work that how many times have we had Vineeth Iyengar on the show to talk about the work that's being done in Louisiana on this front, to talk about how Louisiana is leading the nation in this front, to talk about how our program in Louisiana coming in 44% under budget, 44% under budget. Getting the fiber buried. Just best infrastructure in the nation being set up right here. Other states turning to us to see how to do it. Now, instead, if you go with low Earth orbit satellites, you know who's going to win those contracts? The very same guy who's fighting with the president right now. The very same guy who essentially called the president a pedophile. No, seriously. Elon Musk said the reason you haven't seen the Epstein files is because Trump's name's all over them. Well, what can that possibly mean other than he's been to Epstein Island? What do you do there? Pivoting away from fiber first, inevitably at this point, because he's already got the satellites up there. He's already got the infrastructure. Starlink's already a thing. But this means you're putting more contracts back in his hands at the same time that he's blasting you on social media. We'll figure out where it goes next. Right now, hour 3 is coming up. No. Okay, so terrestrial broadband in rural areas was never a good idea. It depends on the rural area. Vineeth has been on the show multiple times explaining it. I don't do a good job explaining it. I do a good job understanding it. But it depended on the rural area. No, you're not running fiber through swamp, and no, you're not running fiber up mountains. But if it's just a matter of putting the fiber along rural streets, along rural roads, that was not a problem. So it depended on the rural area. The camp in the middle of the Atchafalaya swamp, that was still going to be Starlink. There was going to be a mixture of it. But Galen, I'm assuming here that you're going to get around to the same point that I was making to Vineeth earlier, way earlier, like a year and a half ago, is why do we have to have everyone connected? All the towns, sure, okay? But when you choose to live miles and miles and miles away from everybody, that's an act of choice. You've chosen to move out there. There's a level that you don't want to be connected to. There are people who want to live off the grid. And why are we going to spend money hand over fist to connect them when they've actively chosen to not be connected? That's my bigger point. Not a problem except for the consumer densities doesn't make sense. Well, it also doesn't make sense to redirect a satellite. But Vineeth's spending was coming in 44% beneath budget, under budget. And by the way, my beef is not just with Elon Musk. It's the difference between, I would rather pay more to have an infrastructure that can be managed and maneuvered rather than relying on the whims of one person, no matter who that person is. 806 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Brian here with you, John LaBeouf producing, starting off this third hour of the show, which it will be a busy third hour as well. We're starting off the third hour at 79 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. Moon Griffon hopping on in our next segment. I believe Moon's supposed to be in town tomorrow, which he gets run of the place because I won't be here.
Okay.
Moon's going to come to town. I will be in New Orleans for the Department of Education's Teacher Leadership Summit, which if you weren't around for it last year, is pretty awesome. You would think as teachers get out of school, as it's time for the summertime, you would think the want would be to rest, to refresh, to recharge the batteries, as it were. No. More than 6,000 educators converge on the Ernest Morial Convention Center down in New Orleans to figure out how to take the success that we've shown thus far and just catapult us into the future. Greater success on top of success. We've moved up to, 37th in the nation overall? I might have that number wrong. That might just be reading. But we are making strides. How do we continue to make those strides? How do we make more strides? How do we pick up more ground? Teachers Leadership Summit coming up tomorrow. The summit runs Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday down in New Orleans. We'll be broadcasting, doing full-on deep dive shows. All of our guest topics for the next 2 days will be on education specifically. So we're ready to roll, boss. Cannot wait. But Moon will be up in our next segment. We'll talk a little bit about what went down at the Capitol yesterday, what to expect for the last week of the session. Also coming up this hour, State Representative Barbara Freiberg. Been flying under the radar a little bit for this session, although she's been doing some work on truancy, doing some other work on education that we definitely need to talk about. We'll have Barbara Freiberg on at 8:35. Right now, though, our good friends over at 5 Star Printing and Signs, they bring you This Day in History.
All right. Start off with a mob hit. 1930.
Oh.
Chicago Tribune reporter and closet racketeer Jake Lingle is shot at close range and killed at the Illinois Central train station, allegedly over a $100,000 gambling debt owed to who? Al Capone.
Yeah, how about that?
Mobster Leo Brothers was convicted of the murder.
Okay.
So, starting off there.
Get you some, Chicago.
Woo. 1943, U.S. President FDR signs current tax payment act into law. Taxes withheld from workers' wages to go straight to the government.
Yep. Beginning of the end, folks.
Yes, indeed. Ooh, 1980. Look at that. Comedian Richard Pryor suffers severe burns from freebasing cocaine.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yikes. Keeping it entertainment related, 1984, Cyndi Lauper gets her first U.S. hit, #1, with Time After Time.
Time After Time was her first hit, or first #1?
First #1.
All right. Most folks would have said Girls Just Want to Have Fun.
That's what I would have thought.
Yeah.
But Time After Time.
All right.
2013. Edward Snowden publicly makes his identity known as the leaker of NSA documents. So that happened.
Yep.
Let's see. I got one here in 2019. Usually I save the sports ones for you, but former Boston Red Sox star David Ortiz shot while visiting in his native Dominican Republic.
Big Papi Ortiz.
Man.
So I saw Papi's 498th home run.
Okay.
Normally, like, if you got a story about something, it's about a big number. Like, I was there for number 500. I missed number 500 by like 3 days.
Oh.
Yep. 2015, was in Boston. Was working at Blink Jar Media at the time.
Okay.
Jared took the whole team to the Inbound Conference for HubSpot. So we made the trek up to Boston. Saw 498, and we were 2 feet away from seeing 499.
Oh, man.
Yeah, Papi hit another one to dead center field, and the center fielder made the catch at the wall. I mean, it was like 2 more feet on this ball, and it clears the fence. And I could have said I saw 2 of them, but no, just the one.
Dang. 2022, NASA announced it will begin research into UFOs.
Oh,
focusing on unidentified aerial phenomena.
You forgot to air quote begin
Sure.
research. Yeah, it's the first you've looked into it.
Oh man. Anything else on this day?
No, it's all birthdays for me.
Yeah.
and a couple of deaths.
Okay. I'll begin the birthdays with Peter the Great here, who ruled as monarch over Russia. So we'll give him that. Michael J. Fox today. Michael J. Fox today. Actress Natalie Portman. Also Johnny Depp today.
Yep.
Let's see. Anybody else on your end?
I got Les Paul.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Well, Cole Porter. Cole Porter was born on this day. Back to, sticking with music, Jackie Wilson, born on this day in 1934. Keeping it with music, got a couple more to cover here before we move back to sport. Actually, no, let me just move on over to sports because we're going to run out of time here, and I want to make sure we cover all the local ones that we got here. Former New Orleans Hornet, Peja Stojakovic, Peja on a stick, born on this day in 1977.
Yeah.
Former Cubs second baseman and LSU second baseman, Mike Fontenot, born on this day in 1980. Former Saints defensive tackle Malcolm Roach, 1998. And former LSU wide receiver, who I believe is with the Panthers now, Terrace Marshall, born on this day in 2000.
All right. Yeah, I think you'll appreciate this one. Aaron Sorkin today, who is the creator and showrunner of acclaimed
It's
television.
Aaron Sorkin's birthday?
It is.
Why is he not on my list?
Yes, sir.
What in the...
And I am on the right day today, so...
No, but like, seriously, I would think Sorkin...
Oh, I had to double check myself.
Would be much, much higher up. Like, okay, bigger star, Aaron Sorkin or Natalie Portman?
I would have to go Aaron Sorkin. I would.
Aaron Sorkin or, I mean, Jackie Wilson's ranked higher here.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, Natalie Portman's pretty high on my list as well.
I continue scrolling down. I still haven't gotten to him. I'm down to Danish composer Carl Nielsen, born on this day in 1865. He's ranking higher than Aaron Sorkin.
Dang.
I know. What is the deal here? British physician Elizabeth Garrett Anderson. Ever heard of her? Nope, me neither. How is she ahead of Aaron Sorkin? Creator of Sports Night, The West Wing, Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip in the newsroom, and that's just the TV side.
Yeah.
He's the one that brought us You Can't Handle the Truth.
That's right.
That was his first big film, was the film adaptation of what was originally a play in A Few Good Men.
Yep.
American President.
Charlie
Wilson's War.
Yeah. I want to say he did. Oh, I exited out of it already. But, oh, man.
He did what?
Oh, man. What was the movie? One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
No.
No, he didn't?
No.
Or was it To Kill a Mockingbird? It was one of those two.
Like recently?
No.
Well, those are both way older than him.
Yeah. Are they?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something to do with To Kill a Mockingbird. Was it maybe the play? It might have been.
He might have. I don't know. At the To Kill a Mockingbird's way older. All right, who died today?
Charles Dickens.
Yep.
Nero.
Yeah.
Adam West also.
What?
Yeah.
The original Batman?
This day in 2017, yes.
Oh, man. Okay. Hang on. Dadgummit. I hate the internet so much. All right.
Okay, it was the play.
Yeah, I thought
This was
so.
a 2018 play.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Just figured I'd put that out
there. Yeah, no, all good.
It's like some kind of way he was tied to it.
Yeah, well, I knew he wanted to go back to the stage after, he got burned out on TV and then did the newsroom, but that was like 2012.
Yeah.
And then from there, it was either going to be film or nothing. So it's 8:15 to Talk 107.3 FM. Oh, what national day is it?
Meal Prep Day. Let's go with that.
Meal
National
Prep Day?
On a Monday.
Meal Prep Day.
Monday Meal Prep Day.
Fine. You notice there's no leftovers this week when Rocco came in on Friday?
I know, right?
Friday? Yeah.
Man.
It gone.
So
That went fast. I came back around lunchtime. I was like, let me see if there's anything left.
Dude.
No, sir. No, sir. All the gringo po' boys were gone.
Oh, man. Everyone smelt it.
Yeah, I know.
Like, it wasn't long
Well, because
after.
you can't have a hamburger po' boy with chili con carne and queso.
Yeah.
And then, dressed up with some jalapenos on top of that, which were incidentally fire.
And it was actually all right where you were sitting, so everyone was coming up here like, we smell it. Where's
Yep.
it at?
Yep.
It's like, oh, it's in here.
It went fast. Sometimes they go faster than others. So, by the way, this day in history brought to you by the folks over at 5 Star Printing and Signs. Give them a call at 271-4096, 271-4096. I know. New business cards, new brochures, new menus if you're a restaurant. These are never things that are front of mind. They're never top of mind. You got what you got, and you just live with it, right? Well, maybe it's time for a refresh. Maybe it's time for a rebrand. Maybe it's time to call 271-4096. Branding is more important now, more now than ever. No, now more than ever. Sorry. Putting your logo on some different kinds of merch. For example, I'm drinking some water out of the Sadvocate mug. Sadvocate's been on fire. But throw your logo on the thermos right there. Throw your logo on the thermal mug right there, or any kind of merch they've got out there. Visit 5-Star Printing and Signs, printshop5.com. Printshop5.com is the website. Get yourself a little branding going on at printshop5.com. Quick break. Moon Griffon's next. That's partially true. We didn't keep a close eye on the oil and gas companies when they were laying down all their pipelines. We allowed them to chop us up pretty good. It's not nearly the extent of damage that the suits are for, but there is damage. Oh my God, that guy doesn't know how to say it. Chafalaya? What the shit? Ugh. 820 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Halliday and rolling right along. Coming up at 9 o'clock, we got the Moon Griffon Show. Well, pretty much everywhere around the state you get the Moon Griffon Show, but his home in Baton Rouge is right here, 9 to 11. He's on board with us now. Moon, how are you, sir?
Brian, I'm doing great. The Tigers are in.
You know,
the Tigers are in.
Yeah.
That's all that matters in the sports world because, I didn't stay up all night, Brian. We were up 6-4 when I went to bed and they had the big 6-run inning. So I felt awful good when I got up and looked at my app and saw that the LSU had put it on them. So a great weekend for the Tigers. I do not like to have to play Arkansas, not because I don't think they can't beat Arkansas. There's 2 SEC teams in, and it's a shame they put them in the same bracket, game 1. And I'm not saying it's on purpose. I don't get into all that stuff, but, man, that's kind of odd.
It could have been on purpose, Moon, because if you rewind the clock, there were 13 SEC teams in regionals. So Texas was on the other side of the bracket. Vanderbilt was on the other side of the bracket. Or it when you got 13 teams to back it up to the beginning, you were going to run into this somewhere. It just happened that everybody else fell off. Where Ole Miss should have survived, Vandy should have survived, Auburn probably should have survived. The SEC did not show up well in this tournament.
You know what, though? And I'm going to agree 100%. I think that's obvious. But you had 20% of the field when it was 64. 13 to 64 is 20%. You got 2-8, you're 25%. So actually, your percentage of teams are bigger now than they were in the region. I'm saying just percentage-wise. The problem is head up. Head up means one of them, and they're on the same side of the bracket. So as you know, you got to win that bracket to get to the finals. So we can only have one SEC team to get to the finals.
Now, that being said, there's a lot of 1 seeds that did not advance. So,
I agree. I think the SEC definitely underperformed if you look at overall. I don't think anybody can argue. But here's the good news. I don't care about them. If LSU can win the national championship, it's going to be good times for all. And they got a shot if they hit the baseball like they've been hitting the baseball. They really hit the baseball really well.
Yeah, it's been a great couple days for sure. Don't like the late start times. Don't like the thought that if there's a cloud in the sky, we're pushing back by 3 hours. But
my question to you is, will they make us play the late games in Omaha? We sure played the late games in the regional and the super regional. And I'll be honest with you, I couldn't believe it got moved back yesterday. I just was almost sick because I want to watch a whole game, Ron, and I can't watch a whole game if you're going to finish at 11 o'clock. It ain't going to happen.
No, I'm totally with you, and I'm sitting here. I'm yawning profusely because I did stay up. So
you're a better man than me. You're also younger.
I'm a much more tired man at this point. So
yeah. By the way, I slept good last night. I'm ready to go.
So you got a lot on your plate for today as well. As a little bit of drama yesterday at the state capitol, but still on pace to finish things off. With the budget, still on pace to wrap the budget up either today or tomorrow. What's the latest you're hearing?
Well, they're going to pass the budget. The Senate is, it's amazing that the Devil's Advocate wrote a deal saying the Senate's being responsible with the budget. The Senate has added a bunch of money back in the budget.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's responsible or not because I don't know how you pay for all that. They always get a budget through. Governor still has a heavy hand in all that stuff happening. The bill, and I got Scott back on this morning, the bill that a lot of people felt like Bill Cassidy, of course, Bill has to run in that closed primary. Cameron Henry and them are trying to get it because it's a closed primary. You don't get 50% plus one, you got to run off. What they're trying to do is say you don't have to have 50% plus one, winner take all. So you can win a closed primary with 25%. And that got beat yesterday. I heard Henry's trying to run that again. Now, you can like Cassidy or not is not the point. They set up a certain way. They need to go ahead and run the system. If it doesn't do well, then they can get rid of it. But I don't think you can't. Once again, Brian, and this is one thing I had a problem with the state. We change rules before we see what happens. We do this all the time. We do it in business. We do it with taxes. We don't ever get to see if something's going to work. And I think that's a problem. So I think that was thrown up at the last second, and I didn't like that at all. I think we ought to run it. If Cassidy comes out of the primary, okay, close primary, then he's our guy to go be the next senator in the United States of America. I mean, for Louisiana. But
yeah.
I just don't think you start changing all these rules right now, and that's what they're trying to do.
No, and where else in our system does a plurality move forward? I think so between you and me, Moon, I wasn't a huge fan of the closed primary system. A lot of states that have closed primaries look at us and want the jungle primary that we had. So we moved towards a closed primary system, fine, whatever. That's the way the wind's blowing these days. But whether you have a jungle primary or a closed primary, plurality doesn't win it. Majority does. You've got to have 50 plus one, no matter if it's closed or open.
Yeah, I get it. But we've had presidents win with plurality. Bill Clinton did it twice. I mean, it's just part of the process. I do like.
Well, no, but the presidential's based off the Electoral College.
Yeah, I do like, though, that Republicans and people like Cassidy, it could be Jeff Landry, it could be any of them. Mm-hmm. I do like the fact that they have to come back and face the Republican voters. The problem with the closed primaries, we hand-selected Bessie, congressional races, United States Senate race, and what was the Public Service Commission. What we should have did, if we were going to really do it and be fair, We should have did all statewide officials, judges, and things of that nature. We were really going to be fair about it. And I thought they should have made a broader run on that. If you're going to do it, Brian, in other words, let's do it. If we're not going to do it, then we shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Which would go to your point. You know, you didn't like it. You'd rather just not do it. But I liked it. I wish we'd do it. But I wish we had it for the governor, the lieutenant governor, and everything.
We got Moon Griffon with us. Yeah, it's just give me an either or, right? An either or, not a 50% down this aisle and 50% down that aisle, and you know.
Well, what it does is, you know, just like the redistricting, that was horribly handled by the governor and the legislature. Now we got Cleo Fields, and so I don't care if you like, dislike, or love Garrett Graves. Garrett Graves on his worst day is going to be more conservative than Cleo Fields and will be more with you than against you on his worst day.
Yeah.
So that was another one we dropped the ball on, and hopefully this week we're going to get a ruling on that.
One would hope. It should. I mean, I thought it was going to come down on Friday, but it didn't. So we keep waiting on that front. We got Moon Griffon for a couple more minutes. Moon, got to ask. Oh, wait, no. Before I get to this, had Beth Mizell on the show last Friday.
Yeah.
And I straight up asked her, why is it that June Day is where good bills go to die? And I asked her this question specifically, Moon. I said, why is it that we have a committee that, okay, June Day basically takes care of bills that involve law and lawyers, right? Why is it we have lawyers overseeing lawyers? And honestly, she did her level best to give an answer as to like what would be a better way to do it. But in hindsight, should there not be lawyers on Jude A or any of the judiciary committees?
Brian, I don't care if they have lawyers. That's fine. They may get it more. It's the way things are stacked. In other words, in this case, and you make a good point. You can go back. It's always been like that. But we knew we had some insurance problems, and we knew it was going to be a lot of reform and laws changed. If you ran, and everybody ran on insurance. I don't care what anybody says. They all ran on insurance. Then what you do is you set the committee up to get stuff out to go vote on the floor. It was set up to beat stuff back, not to vote on the floor or amend things to weaken it. Now, I will go back to the Senate President, Cameron Henry. Cameron Henry said last year, it's my job to protect the senators from voting. That's not true.
Right.
That is not true. That's not his job. All these bills passed through the House, I want to see them voted on in the Senate. But they're not going to be voted on in the Senate if you kill it in Q8. And that's why I thought that committee should have been, I called it out first day, should have been 5-2. And we knew Miller and we knew Jay Lunatic, I call him Luno. We knew there were just more leftist type deals that will beat stuff back. And I felt like those two should be off. 2 more lawyers on there, making your point. But I would have put some people that you know you can get stuff to the floor. And they put people on there to beat stuff from getting on the floor amending it. And that was the problem I had with it.
Yeah, I just, when I started to take a look at it, just ignore party. You got 5-2 lawyers versus non-lawyers on a 7-person committee. And the job of that committee is to set the rules that the lawyers have to play by. So you're letting them set their own rules for their own field. That is wildly out of sync. Now, the flip side is, do you really want people who don't understand the law writing or approving the laws that the lawyers have to follow? That's the flip side, and that's why Beth didn't have a better answer for me.
But the other thing to remember, too, is all this stuff has to be passed with the full Senate, no matter how many lawyers you got in. Somebody's got to explain it and be able to understand it no matter how much, how many laws you pass. So somebody's got to understand it.
What you got coming up on the show?
We got Scott McKay to talk a little bit about that deal that they tried to get passed. It got beat yesterday. We've got that. I got some oil and gas news. I don't know if the legacy stuff they passed last night is as good as they say. And there's a big carbon capture meeting. I'm supposed to have a lady on to talk a little bit about what the meeting's about. So all that and a lot more.
Catch Moon Griffon half an hour from right now. Always appreciate the time, brother.
All right, brother. Always a pleasure. I'll see y'all tomorrow. I'll be in town.
Good deal. Good deal. It's time for news.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks. Let me let him know I'll be on location tomorrow. Moon. Nope. Location, not vacation. There's Representative Freiberg. I gotta get up for a second. Too much sitting. There it is. Oh, my notes for this segment. Gross. Ooh. All right, let's see how that forecast is stacking up real quick. As we do have some chance of rain in the forecast throughout the week this week. In fact, there's 90% chance of rain today. Your high's only getting up to 88. We'll get down to 74 overnight, up to 85 tomorrow, then back down to 72. Now, tomorrow we are at a 50-50 chance of rain, 33% chance of rain for Wednesday, and back to a 50-50 chance of rain on Thursday. So before we get too far down the road here, let's go ahead and take a look at when we can expect that rain. Basically right after lunch. It's looking like there's no chance of rain at noon and a 100% chance of rain at 1. So 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock hours, that's when it should be at its worst. It should taper off a little bit after that. And some chance of rain sticking around, 30 to 40% sticking around until about 7 p.m. before it all clears on out of here for the night. That being said, right now, skies are clear, 79 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. So essentially when I'm driving, right? Essentially as I'm driving down to New Orleans to set up shop for the next 2 days, where we will be broadcasting from the Department of Education's Teacher Leadership Summit. Department of Ed brings us out. They brought us out last year, and it was a remarkable success. I got to hear some great stories, hear some great plans, learn about what they're doing behind the scenes as our state's education department is moving us up the rankings nationwide. Dr. Brumley said, Haldane, come do some shows. I said, can do. So we're going to do that again, and that's tomorrow and Wednesday down at the Morial Convention Center for the Department of Education's Teacher Leadership Summit. Speaking of education, one state representative who has paid a lot of attention to education in her time, her entire time in elected office, really. State Representative Barbara Freiberg is on the hotline with us. How are you this morning?
I'm great, Brian. Good morning to you. I'm jealous that you're going to be down in New Orleans for 2 days at the Teacher Leadership Summit. I would love to be there also. Unfortunately, I'll be here, or fortunately, I'll be here in the legislature trying to finish up what's been a very interesting session.
Interesting is an interesting word. Why are you calling it an interesting session?
Because it's been a short session, but everyone here is feeling a lot of stress. We're tired. I think the bills have been very important bills, and we've gotten them over the finish line. It's just been very very stressful, and it's taken its toll on a lot of folks.
Then let's rewind the clock back to 2023. You had Governor Jeff Landry elected, and then you got a huge freshman class coming in. Last year, it seemed like everything was just hunky dory. Everybody was holding hands, singing Kumbaya. Is it safe to say the honeymoon's over?
I wouldn't say that. I think it's settling into a lot of the realities of being a legislator. But I don't think the honeymoon is over. No.
Okay. Well, I mean, the results are still there for sure. Y'all got a lot done in 2 short months. What are some of the highlights that you're going to look back on and be most proud of?
Well, I had a truancy bill that I was trying to run, which would have tied funding, MFP dollars, to your average daily attendance.
Okay.
And I got a lot of pushback from superintendents and others who said, well, we have so many challenged students who can't be here. It would be punishing a district that needs the money the most. My argument was those are the kids that need the most attention and need to be in school, and we need to be doing everything we can to make sure those students are in school. But recognizing the fact that there might be some good ideas out there and that we need a more extensive conversation, I ended up not running the bill and instead ran an HR that will put together a group who will review the truancy needs and the attendance needs. They'll look at potential remedies and also including and particularly the school funding formulas tied to daily attendance. And it's a very diverse group from superintendents to folks from the local truancy assessment center. So we have a good group of people who will come together, and hopefully by early next year we'll have some recommendations so that I can bring back legislation that is more relevant and that everyone has had an opportunity to weigh in on.
Okay, we don't often talk about, they always say you never want to see laws or sausage made, but this is one of those peel back the curtain to get a really good look at how laws are made, because you take your idea for this year and basically moving it from a bill to a resolution gives you the room to run, the groundwork to go ahead and build this thing out the right way. So talk to me a little bit about, you said it's a diverse group. Talk to me a little bit about who makes up this committee that's going to be doing this research.
Well, it'll be school welfare and attendance folks from urban districts and rural districts. It'll be principals from rural districts and urban districts. Same for superintendents. It will have a number of folks from the department who have expertise in finances, and it will have a couple of people from the legislature. So we'll have the people that are on the ground doing this every day, giving us their best shots at what we can do to make sure kids are in school. Because we know if kids are not in school, for every hour a child misses school, it affects the academic performance. And it's particularly important for our students that come from the most challenged backgrounds to be there every day, because the chances are they may not have the support at home they need to continue to be academically secure.
That's got to start with, when it comes to truancy, that's got to start with the why, right?
With what now?
With the why. Why are they truant? Why are they not going to school?
Right.
That's what you learn.
And, when I was on the school board, I spent a lot of time down at the truancy court just listening to the families who came in and the excuses for kids not being in school. And I don't think you solve the problem by locking parents up. I know that a lot of people feel that's the best way. If parents aren't doing their job to get kids to school, then we need to lock them up. But lots of times, if a kid misses a bus, a parent doesn't have a way to get the kid to school. We need to figure out those nuances, and find solutions for them.
Well, yeah, oftentimes the parent is already off to work. And just doesn't know about it until it's too late. So
right.
Right. We got State Representative Barbara Freiberg with us. More on the education front, but stepping away from your bills, let's move over to St. George. This is one that got done, and you had a hand in making sure it was is palatable the right word?
Brian, there were about 3 bills this session that I spent hundreds of hours on that don't have my name on them. But I worked very hard with Rick Edmonds when the bill came from the Senate to the House. It had not been changed at all, and he worked with me. We worked with financial folks. We worked with folks from East Baton Rouge Parish School Board to solve some of the issues of assets and liabilities, to solve the issue of cross-district attendance at schools, particularly the magnet schools. And we worked very, very hard on those. I don't think either side got everything they wanted, but I think we have a bill now that is better than any transition bill we've had in the past.
What did we do right this time?
I think the way we will go about evaluating assets and liabilities, making sure retirement benefits are included in that, not just for teachers in the schools, but for anyone who touches those schools throughout that district. And this is all assuming the constitutional amendment passes today and that the voters vote for the school district. There are a lot of steps left before this would ever become a reality. So that's about 2 years down the road. But I think in preparation and being proactive, we have put together a transition plan that is a compromise from both sides.
Got a couple of minutes left with State Representative Barbara Freiberg. Talk about her session, but the session going on overall. Want to take a closer look at a couple of bills that you had that have both been sent to the governor, and it kind of ties into Visit Baton Rouge. Tell me about
Yes.
HB 226 and 296.
All right, you got to tell me. One of those is the one
The
that
Parish
takes,
Enhancement Fund.
that's the one that takes the money that had been dedicated to Sports BR.
Yes.
That's no longer a viable group. Every year they got $100,000 through hotel taxes, and it came to Sports BR. Sports BR is no longer viable, so that money now will come directly to Visit Baton Rouge to use to bring sports programs, soccer tournaments, bowling tournaments, so forth, to Baton Rouge.
Mhm.
None of that money will be used for salaries or benefits. It will all go toward enhancing what we bring to Baton Rouge. And the second bill was one that we ran last year, but we ran out of time, so we had to make it statewide. It will give a sales tax rebate to groups that come in, entertainment groups. This is to try and get more entertainment folks to come to Baton Rouge and not so much to Lafayette, New Orleans, but bring them here so that the promoters would get a rebate on the ticket sales, the concession sales, and the parking. So those two bills were important, and I will mention that today on the Senate floor, probably one of my most important bills, which is the redesign of the 19th JDC, will be heard, I think, today. It's in the Senate, and I hope it makes its way through.
Got about a minute and a half left with State Representative Barbara Freiberg. Well, let's broaden things out for the last minute and a half and talk about the session as a whole. This last week, what's it going to look like? Set the table for us.
You know what? I think we've done a lot of the groundwork. We've gotten those insurance bills out of the House, out of the Senate for the most part. I think we have a couple still hanging out there, but they're on the governor's desk, and we're very proud of that. I think that's been a big win for us. It certainly was our major focus. I think there are just some, loose ends to tie up. I think the budget's in very good shape. I don't think we'll be having too many controversies with it. I think that we are looking pretty good there. Both the House and the Senate agreeing on most of the major aspects of that bill, of HB 1 and HB 2. So I think we're in pretty good shape. I think we'll get out of here in time. There was a lot of discussion about how we might not, but I think we will.
I think you will too. I'm predicting 4 hours early.
4 hours early?
I'm predicting you'll get out for lunch or late lunch at 2 p.m. and you sine die.
That would be nice, but I bet we sine die in the evening.
Right at 6? All right. I'll put you down on the big board. Look, I wasn't ignoring that 19th JDC story. I want to wait until it's across the finish line so we can fully unpack it.
I do too, and I would love to come on and talk about it after the Senate has had its say with it. And because I think it's very important.
It is very important, but there's a lot to unpack, so I want to make sure we give it its just due. In the meanwhile, she is state
Go ahead. Meanwhile, you have a great time and pick up a lot of information, and I'll be listening to your interviews down there because I just wish I could be in your shoes down there in New Orleans with all the teachers. That's going to be a great couple of days.
I greatly appreciate it. Yep, we will be here 6 to 9 tomorrow. We will be down there 6 to 9 tomorrow and Wednesday. In the meanwhile, State Representative Barbara Freiberg, we always appreciate the time.
Thank you so much, Brian. Have a great day.
You too. Do I have enough time to tell you about Mathurin? I do not. I'm going to go ahead and say that right now. We'll tell you about Mathurins when we come back. We got a break here real quick. We will check traffic. We'll come back. Don't know if you saw, Mississippi's Buc-ee's opened up this morning. Let's talk about it next. Jerry Theodoro's the featured. Louisiana's insurance report card gets a C. Barbara Freiberg, of course, goes into the legislative. .856 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Got a couple minutes left here on Mornings with Brian Haldane. Before we get you to the outside in, I want to remind you about the folks over at Mathern's. All right, no more baseball at the box, right? So no more tailgating on the box. We got to wait until football season. before we're tailgating again. However, if you're hosting some folks at home for the College World Series, might I recommend hitting up the catering menu over at Matherns.com or on the Matherns Rewards app. I can speak to this personally because I've used them before, and they are phenomenal. A lot of hot party trays, a lot of breakfast style. Well, okay, so they crush a breakfast for sure. Crush a breakfast. But for the lunch and dinner, you got the sandwich trays. You've got the main dishes. You've got the salads. They've got you covered. There's more than 54 different tray items to choose from. If you're hosting some folks for the College World Series, Matherns.com is a great place to start. And if you download the Matherns Rewards app, you'll be earning cash towards more groceries, even with catering purchases as well. All right, time for the Outside In. Let's get it. The Outside In takes us outside of Louisiana today, actually. We got to head over to Pass Christian, Mississippi, where Buc-ee's opened this morning. Buc-ee's has opened in Pass Christian, Mississippi. Another outside of Texas Buc-ee's. And here we are in South Louisiana. We still don't have one. North Louisiana's getting one. Well, somewhere up around Ruston, apparently, is getting one. But here in South Louisiana, we don't have one. The folks over in Mississippi, I'm trying to look right now at the traffic to see if it's causing problems. Coming off of I-10 by Pass Christian. Well, no. I was hoping for like traffic delays and whatnot. I really thought that was going to be a thing as Buc-ee's is now officially opened up. The Advocate's got the story up right now as dozens of people from Mississippi, Louisiana, and even as far away as Hawaii lined up outside of Buc-ee's in Pass Christian. Workers in bright red T-shirts gave each other pep talks before opening the doors to a mass of beaver-crazed fans. Y'all ready? Door greeter Sarah Reynolds asked cashiers at 5:58 a.m., 2 minutes before she began ushering folks inside. They ain't ready, she replied. When the clock struck 6, hundreds of patient people began hollering, grabbing carts and recording videos as they got a first glimpse of the massive store, one of the largest Buc-ee's locations in the United States of America. All right. Buc-ee's is now officially open in Mississippi. Will be open in North Louisiana before it's all said and done. I ask you, do you even want one in Baton Rouge? I know there was a hot minute where they were looking at opening one off Millerville. I think that minute has passed because that whole the space where that was supposed to be is now a bunch of other things. But do you want a Buc-ee's in Baton Rouge? Let us know. Hop on the Facebook Live feed over there at Talk 107.3's Facebook page presented by Lake Urgent Care. You said, why wouldn't you want one, Brian? Well, the traffic's one thing. The allure is on the positive side. But on the back end of it, I mean, Buc-ee's has a reputation that is impeccable, is flawless. I don't know if I want that much pressure on Baton Rouge's workforce. That's it for us. Moon Griffon's next. We'll talk tomorrow. We were short a minute there. I don't know why. Why were we short a minute there? I came back in at 56 and change, not 55 and change. I had another minute's worth of stuff to do on Buc-ee's, and then I couldn't do it because we ran out of time.
To be honest, I'm not sure. Because,
all right. All right, y'all, we will see you on the morrow. I will be broadcasting live from the Ernest N. Morial Convention Center in New Orleans. See you then.